not been following, there has been an issue in Edo State that has to do with the PDP. A court ruled some days ago over the primaries that brought in Osa-Ogbegie, who is the governorship candidate of that particular party. And that had generated a lot of conversation in the polity. And the party said they will proceed to appeal that judgment because the court questioned the process that brought him in. And there are different interpretations, whether it's still the candidate, is not the candidate, and all of that. But as far as we know, they are appealing that judgment, and they've spoken at their next meeting, or the meeting they held as far as the governorship campaign council is concerned, from the party level even to the state level. Let's now have on the program Mr. Andrew Emwata, who is the former commissioner for communication and a counsel in that particular case. Mr. Andrew joins us from Abuja studio. Also joining us via Zoom is Mr. Dan Osa-Ogbegie, the spokesman of Osa-Ogbegie Campaign Management Council and also a legal practitioner. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to see you this evening, Jeffrey.
All right, so the reason, if you notice, I was very careful in concluding what the law or the judgment said. But let me come to you, Mr. Emwata. You were in court. You were privy to this. And there's been some, narrative being taken on as far as that judgment is concerned. So what is the true picture of the judgment?
Thank you. Just as you have noted, the courts in that particular case made a pronouncement concerning 381 delegates who won election as ad hoc delegates to elect the PDP candidate on the 22nd of February this year. And remember, that same court had given an order on the 16th, and by that order, it told PDP to come and show cause why these 381 persons should be excluded. But the party went ahead in disobedience of that court order and excluded these persons. And as God will have it, on that special day, which is 4th of July, the court made that pronouncement that these are the validly elected delegates. And in the Bible, it is written in Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1, that to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose. That was a day of glory. It was the day of reckoning for those who deprived those 381 persons from electing the candidate of the PDP. And the legal implication of that is simple. If you look at page 34 of that judgment, the court said categorically that Exhibit PDP-1, which was a list of those who elected Osa-Ogbegie, was an invalid document because of the fact that it was manufactured by two persons. Two persons signed the results for 192 words, unlike our own exhibits BID 8A to 8L, which include the results of all those persons that were validly elected at the Congress of the PDP that took place on the 4th of February 2024. And those results were signed by both the returning officer and the electoral officers appointed by the PDP. When you juxtapose that with the exhibit presented by PDP on behalf of Ighodalo, you discover that those results were concussions, mere concussions. The result for Oredo was not signed. In some instances, only the governor of Anambra was chairman of that committee, signed some results, and in some instances, the secretary co-signed with him. And they wrongly labeled it, because when you look at the electoral guidelines of the PDP, it was a 3 delegates ad hoc World Congress, but they labeled theirs as local government by local government election results. I know there's no proper way to do the wrong thing. When you talk of rigging, that election was rigged. That Congress was rigged. And that is what Justice Eko discovered by his findings. And ruled that the only authentic delegates that were supposed to participate in the election were those 381 persons.
No, land on your thoughts.
By virtue of that pronouncement, PDP does not have a candidate, because the people that went to Ogbe Stadium on the 22nd of February were actually people not known to law.
All right, let me take it to Mr. Ogbegie. Mr. Ogbegie, you're also a lawyer, so maybe you give us your own interpretation of what it is, because from the documents we see and the CTC and all of that, from his submission, it appears that you will have to tell us what it is. He has told us the side of the story, but he is saying that the people that elected Osa-Ogbegie as a candidate of the party were not the people that want to be delegates in that particular election.
When I heard that my friend Emwata was the one that's going to come from the other side, I was actually happy because I thought that he would finally have the opportunity to apologize to Nigerians and to Edo people for misleading the whole nation. And because of his misleading interview that he gave just after the court proceeding on Thursday, Nigerian pressmen media were misled to further misinform Nigerians. Now, we saw the CTC of the judgment on Friday, and there was nowhere it was mentioned that the candidate of the PDP was disqualified or that the primaries held on the 22nd of February was declared void by the court. There was nowhere. What the court held were order of mandamus telling the PDP not to unlawfully disallow those plaintiffs from participating in the primary election of 22nd of February. That was what the court held purely. And, at the risk of, commenting on a judgment that is going to be on appeal, as lawyers, we are not really competent to talk about judgment of the court and start talking about it on national TV like this. But just to correct the impression that the APC and other opposition figures are creating in the media so that people will not be misled, the court did not in any way hold that the PDP had no candidate. It did not. The judgment of the court at best was academic because the court was giving an order of mandamus for an action that had already been completed. So there was nothing to enforce in that judgment. But the judgment was completely empty.
Okay, but I understand you are appealing. Okay, I understand you are appealing that judgment. So what are you appealing?
Yeah, what we are appealing is that the court did not even have jurisdiction to entertain that matter at all. The court did not have jurisdiction. So it is a point of jurisdiction. In fact, the PDP had 8 cases, and they are all like-minded cases. And out of these 8 cases, 3 of them were in the court of this particular court, and 2 of them had been dispensed with the court holding that it lacked jurisdiction, and that only aspirants had the right or the locus to challenge outcome of primaries. So why was this one different? It was a bit curious to see that the court went ahead to give judgment in the way it gave this judgment. Or even at that, the judgment cannot be enforced because the primary election had already been conducted.
Mr. Ogbegie, let me take it back to Mr. Emwata. Mr. Emwata, 2 issues here. He's arguing that the case is already status barred. That is his argument. So I would like to know when it was instituted, and as a lawyer, is it status barred? Second, there is this recurrent reference to Section 84 of the Constitution that has to do with who has local standard to institute a suit when it comes to governorship primary.
Thank you, Geoffrey. I think I'll start by saying that there's a whole world of difference between a vehicle manufacturer and a mechanic. And I think Nigerians will know what I mean when I proceed. My friend who is a lawyer, I don't know how long he is at the bar, will say mandamus. It was not a prerogative writ, but the court granted an order of mandatory injunction. So a lawyer should know the difference between a prerogative writ, which is an order of mandamus compelling the public officer to do a duty. PDP is not a public officer in that context, but a mandatory injunction was given in that case. And just also correct the impression, he talked about an earlier decision of Justice Ekwa, and I think I'll quickly explain the difference between that one and this present case. That first case was brought by Hadiza Umoru, who was an aspirant, challenging the outcome of the Delegates Congress. And what the court said, an aspirant in the primaries cannot challenge a delegate Congress wherein she was not a delegate. It is only a delegate that can challenge the outcome of a delegate Congress. And they celebrated that judgment. Oh, the courts gave a beautiful judgment. The judiciary is the last of a copper man. Now the judiciary has not considered a case involving delegates and said only a delegate can bring that action. And you see him now approbating and reprobating. The case is simple. We were not out to challenge the PDP primaries because at the time we went to court, there was no PDP primaries. There was no Osa-Ogbegie in the annex portal because it was just a mere aspirant. But by the time the court gave the order, there was still no primaries, but they went ahead to do the primaries. They thought because it was a completed act, the court cannot pronounce on the validity of the people who were supposed to participate in that election. And the easiest way to explain this is this. In 2020, Obaseki had a free ride. And I liken Obaseki as somebody who built on PDP's land, right? He was given a ticket on a platter of gold, and in 2023, having built a very beautiful house, he still laid claim as the owner of the house. And in law, there's a principle that says, quid plantator solo sedit. Whatever is built on the land belongs to that land. The court has now pronounced that these ad hoc delegates are the owners of the land, and Obaseki is still laying claim to the house. And in law, once a court gives judgment as to the ownership of the land, the house automatically belongs to the owner of the land. So to now talk of a PDP ticket in the hands of Aswe, I mean, that is logical fallacy, right? Because the court has said, Exhibit PDP 1 in page 34 of that CTC of the judgment was a document manufactured by two persons, as opposed to our Exhibit BID 8A to 8L that was signed by every electoral officer at the various wards. The court discountenanced that document that PDP tendered as a document not worth the sort of an election result, because the electoral guidelines stipulate how the Congress election results should look like. And I think it's a lesson for political parties to obey their rules. When we talk of internal democracy, it means that we must play according to rules. There's nothing like internal affairs of a party. When you exclude 387 members of your party, cutting across 127 wards, cutting across 12 local governments,
all right, Mr. Emwata,
that is rigging.
If I may
excluded these persons, there's no way that process can stand.
We're running out of time, so let me take it to Mr. Ogbegie. Mr. Ogbegie, I want you to speak to that issue of signing, two persons signing their signature on all of the, is it delegate list now? Maybe you speak to that based on what we saw in that document.
I do not think that's the appropriate question that should be asked here. The point is very clear. What Emwata ought to be answering now is to show us where in that judgment, where the court made pronouncement that the PDP did not have a candidate, or that the primary election of 22nd of February was nullified. There's nowhere in that judgment. And instead of the young man to apologize, he's grandstanding on national television. He has misinformed the entire nation, and he's talking about when I was called to the bar. He knows when he was in BIU, I was already a lawyer with my own law firm. He knows that. So when he comes to national TV to grandstand, it's rather unfortunate. I think there will be consequences. There will be consequences for a lawyer to deliberately, misinform the public about proceedings in court just to score cheap political points.
So Mr. Ogbegie, so what was the pronouncement enforceable decision of court if it wasn't nullification of Osa-Ogbege's candidacy?
It is not nullification. If it was nullification, the court will say it was nullification. It is clear. It said these people should not be unlawfully disallowed from participating in the primaries. But the primary had already been done February 22nd. So that means the judgment was essentially an academic judgment, to put it mildly. It was essentially an academic judgment. So there's nowhere in that judgment where the primaries was nullified. There's nowhere in it.
Mr. Emwata, your last take on this. He said there's nowhere in that judgment where the primaries were nullified. He's saying that the only thing that he said that they should not. Just hold on, Mr. Ogbegie. Let him respond to what you alluded.
I cited a particular page. I said page 34 The document which is Exhibit PDP-1 they use in electing elsewhere, the court nullified that document. You cannot put something upon nothing and expect it to stay there to collapse. And why are they appealing? They should apologize to Nigerians. They said that the document is an academic document. They said the issue of Aswa's election is not affected. Then why are they appealing? Initially, they said they were not going to go on appeal, but the chairman of their campaign council, the governor of Adamawa, knowing the danger, and the man said that they are in serious trouble, that there's a big challenge, and that is why he feels that they will appeal that decision. And I think they must apologize to Nigerians, because if there's really nothing in the judgment, then why are you appealing?
So, Mr. Emwata, sorry, my apologies, please.
The DG of their campaign called me. Then if there's no problem, then why are they calling me? Why are you calling me? Why is the DG speaking to me for one
just a minute. I want to have your input on this particular one. So now that the court has decided,
they should stop calling me, but appeal the decision.
They said they will appeal the decision. They said they are appealing the decision based on jurisdiction. I think I heard him clearly on that one. So
that's a big lie.
As a lawyer,
the court has made a pronouncement on the issue of if they had a valid delegate list. They had a forged manufactured delegate list, which the court threw into the garbage can of history. So
the question I wanted to ask is, in your view, does it mean that a primary should be done again? Or what is it that you want?
They've lost the opportunity. Because when you build on my land, the house belongs to me.
All right, Mr. Ogbegie, your last take as we wrap up.
I think my advice is for the
consequences for a lawyer to come and grandstand. If he had come to apologize for misinforming the country and for political reasons, that would have been understandable. But now he came, he could not show us anywhere in that judgment where the court heard that the PDP primaries was nullified or that it was voided or that the PDP did not have a candidate. I want to tell Nigerians, Osa-Ogbegie remains the candidate of the PDP. His candidacy was not in question. His candidacy was not touched in any way by the judgment of the court. There was no order as to his candidacy. He remains the candidate of the PDP.
I must thank you both for coming to the program. We're totally out of time. Mr. Andrew Emwata, former commissioner for communication at Edo State, as well as a lawyer, and Dan Osa-Ogbegie, spokesperson of Osa-Ogbegie Campaign Management Council, and also a lawyer. Gentlemen, I must thank you both. Thank you for coming on the program.
Gentlemen, thanks for having me.